Offense, you know what to do.
It's football time in Tennessee.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 1796 Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Normal Valfan, joined alongside with the boy Ryan. All right, well, we're 3 weeks away from football season. Couldn't be more excited. The Vols are getting a little bit of hype from what we weren't hearing at the beginning, a couple weeks ago. But the Vols preseason ranking comes in at number 15. So, Ryan, I want to get your thoughts. What are your initial thoughts on the Vols being mid of the pack in the top 25?
I love it. That's fine with me. I personally don't think, rankings should come out until like after week 4, because you get a lot of teams with wins over top ranked teams in the early part of the year that ended up being not that impressive. But I'm fine with 15. The teams in front of, there's only a few teams in front of us that I think are ridiculous. LSU being one of them, Clemson being one of them, Missouri being one of them. I think we're going to be better than all them. But other than that, I don't have much of a problem with it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Honestly, I'd rather be mid of the pack. You're not your expectations aren't super high, but Tennessee's got a semi tough road at the beginning of the year, and I'm not talking about Chattanooga or Kent State, but I'm talking about NC State is going to be a tough game right at the beginning of the season, and then obviously Oklahoma. Those two games are must wins in my opinion. Because if you could start the season 4-0, Tennessee's set for a great season, just like 2 years ago. Tennessee can. They set their own path the first 4 games of the season. Obviously, Chattanooga and Kent State, you're expected to win. You're expected to win big those 2 games. But honestly, the way I look at Tennessee this year, and with the quarterback situation, the wide receiver room being so good, you have a veteran O-line. You should be able to win the trenches against NC State, in my opinion. And I think you shouldn't really have a problem with NC State, in my opinion. I know everyone's saying how good NC State is. Don't sleep on them. I'm not sleeping on them. But Tennessee on paper is way more talented. And they should beat NC State by 2 touchdowns at least. That's my opinion.
I'm sleeping on them.
Are you saying you think that they're gonna smoke them, or you just like?
Well, it's like you said. There's no reason talent wise that Tennessee shouldn't mop the floor with NC State. It'll
And
be
coaching wise.
Yeah, it'll be a 50-50 crowd at worst, if not a slight Tennessee advantage. I don't even care that it's in North Carolina. But, yeah, I'm not worried about NC State. That's all I'm going to say for now.
Yeah. The only reason people are saying that is because of Grayson McCall. And don't get me wrong, he's a great quarterback. But, I think with everyone talking about how Tennessee's defensive line is top 5 in the country, in my opinion. Their defensive line is super stacked this year. I wouldn't be surprised, and we're going to have this discussion in a couple minutes, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee breaks their sack record this year. I think it's 50 exactly is their sack record. I think with this defensive line, I would not be shocked that gets broken this year, especially if they have the season where everyone thinks they can make the playoff. I think it's an easy given. But go ahead.
Sorry. Let's play a game real quick. Name edge rushers on Tennessee's roster. I'll start. James Pierce.
I'm going to go with the young freshman Jordan Ross.
Caleb Herring.
Is Bryson Eason edge?
Defensive line. That counts.
Okay.
Joshua Josephs.
Joshua Joseph's going to be a stud. Well, if we're going defensive line too, you're talking Big O, obviously.
Elijah Simmons,
Omar Norman Lott.
Jackson Moe.
Jackson Moy, another one that's gonna. I think a lot of people are sleeping on him. Um, oh God, that was like 7 or 8. They're like 13 deep. Why can't I think of the other ones?
See, that's my whole point. The whole point of the exercise, like we have like names that fans know that are probably going to get less than 20 snaps a game, maybe even less than 15, because we expect so much out of them. That's why we know their names. Like it's the deepest that line has been, that room has been since like 2001 probably.
Oh, Tyree West. We didn't even think about Tyree West or
Yeah,
Davian Hobbs.
it's crazy. You could probably name 3 or 4 more. Like it is the deepest room since they had John Henderson and Albert Hainsworth in the same defensive line room.
Well, not only that, I think we improved at linebacker as well. I mean, if Keenan Peely could stay healthy this year, this defense is so much better, and the talent at the defensive back is there. It's just, and we were talking about it before we even started the pod. Did they just get more talent to where they'll be better in general just because of the talent itself? And I think that's a yes. I think the talent itself is there to where they shouldn't have a problem. I mean, between Ricky Gibson, Turrentine, McCoy, and I know you're going to talk about another one later, but Jacoby Thomas and Jalen McMurray. I mean, you have these guys that can improve your defense, especially from last year.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a lot of the just talking about the talent difference in over the last 3 years, entering the 4th year for Josh Heupel. Like the VolQuest guys talked about it after the first scrimmage on Friday night. Like it is night and day the difference just on the eye test with these players now that are in Tennessee's program compared to 2021, and that excites me when the people who are around the team every day and get to watch the practices just make it a point to say this team looks legit.
Well, yeah, and mainly talking from the defensive standpoint because, I mean, everyone knows. Well, it's not that everyone knows. I mean, everyone expects Nico to be better than Joe Milton. Shout out Joe, sick preseason 1 game by the way. But Nico is gonna run this offense really well. I think we'll be back to the speed and tempo that we were used to with Hendon Hooker. Especially with the new communication stuff with the helmet. I think this offense is going to be on full cylinders where it's going to get a lot of defensive tired. And like I said, I'm not really worried about the offense this year between the absolutely another one, how we just talked about defensive line. Wide receiver room is absolutely stacked this year. I mean, like it's like an all-star team for the wide receiver core.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are sleeping on it.
Yeah, I mean, and like we started this out with, I'd rather be lying in the weeds and just prove it on the field. And you mentioned just I forgot what you mentioned. The talent, difference mainly shows up on defense, just on the eye test, because we all know how bad the defense was the first 2 years. Last year was pretty darn good compared to where it was the first 2 years. But the thing about the helmets and the communication, another thing college football is doing this year, the iPads on the sideline. And, the big thing with the helmet communication is I think it shuts off at 20 seconds or 15 seconds before the play clock on the play clock. I mean, and that really doesn't matter for Tennessee. Like, like that's what excites me is that by the time, most teams are ready to snap, that clock is below that. But by the time Tennessee gets ready to snap, they probably have 10, 15 seconds to spare if you're talking about the cutoff time on the new helmet communication.
No, yeah, for sure. I think, and I think Heupel will let Nico run with it. I mean, I don't think Heupel's going to be obviously the first like drive of the game. It's going to be all scripted anyway. They have their normal thing, but I think between the first couple quarters of initial games, I think Nico's going to have his free reign of what he thinks is going to work for the offense itself.
Yeah.
But again, wide receiver core is improved from last year. I think the tight end group has improved vastly from last year. And we got the veteran O line. I mean, other than left guard, I mean, your offensive line's set. And obviously they're going to fill that spot left guard with someone they think is, doing well enough to fill that spot. So I'm not really worried about the offense. I think the offense is going to be as good or better than it was in 2022. And if it's better than 2022, honestly, I don't see a lot of teams stopping us. Like, I really don't.
No. And well, I think we've talked about it before. The left guard spot, it's kind of a spot that you can hide a little bit. I mean, it's not a center or a tackle spot. So they'll find somebody there that's good enough. And, the Chattanooga game, I think, while you're playing an opponent that's going to be overmatched, just use that game to find out who you're going to play at left guard, please. And don't be. Oh, my
God. Get your starters out of the game. Like,
yes, yeah.
First quarter, let them play the first quarter. And to me, you should be up 2 touchdowns at that point. Get him out. Get him out. Let Merklinger and Gaston play, and let all the backups and freshmen play in that game. Just stay healthy. Stay healthy, because, like I said before, NC State, people shouldn't sleep on them, but Tennessee at full health shouldn't lose.
Yeah,
should not lose.
One of the more annoying things about last year, early in the season, was that the Austin Peay game, you were up 10 in the fourth quarter. You were up 7 at halftime. So you never really had a chance to get the young guys in and get them experienced in live game reps because you weren't winning the game by enough, which was...
It was nerve-wracking, that game.
It was unfathomable the way that game unfolded. And I think it hurt us later in the season because once we had the injuries in the secondary, once we had the injuries on the offensive line, once we had the injury to Brew, like the depth was not, experienced enough to be as effective. And I think that hurt us. The same thing happened in the what game was it? The UTSA game. The third quarter of that game was a farce. I think we scored a field goal and we never separated enough to get the starters out until, the time in the game where you just hand the ball off. And I think that's the reason the Chattanooga game, the Kent State game is so important, because you have Chattanooga to prepare for NC State. You have Kent State to prepare for Oklahoma. And just make those games laughers, please, for the love of all things sacred.
Well, and like I'm saying, if the offense is the offense that we know and love, I honestly, dude, I don't think, even if the defense isn't up to par like we're thinking, it's like the 2022 season, it was like that. Tennessee was beating people because of the offense, including Alabama. They beat Alabama that year because of the offense. Their offense was so insanely powerful to where you didn't have to really worry about the defense. But now the defense is better. So it's like, if you could bring that offense along with even an average defense. We said this a year ago, saying if that was at all possible, Tennessee would be unstoppable. Mm-hmm. And it's true, and it will stay true. It's just, Tennessee has a lot to look forward to. They should be confident, and that's what I think, that they need to come out, even though it's Chattanooga. They need to come out and they need to blow the brakes off this team. They need to come out, win 49-0 or 49-7, whatever, and have that confidence to go into that NC State game going like, oh, dude, look at this offense. We just scored 50 points. go in with the confidence, not like the Austin P game. Because think about it, if you play the Chattanooga game like the Austin P game and go into a team against NC State like that at a neutral site, is going to be a problem. I promise you, it's going to be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's a perfect point because the week after Austin P was the Florida game, and we all know what happened there. The offense threw up all over itself for most of the game, which was a carryover from the previous week.
well, that's all, and that's the thing is it's just this offense shouldn't be like that this year with a quarterback, in my opinion, a quarterback jump between Joe Milton and Nico Iamaleava. I mean, like, it's just we shouldn't see that. Obviously, Nico's still a young quarterback, and he might have some bumps in the road, but that's right. Have the bumps in the road against Chattanooga and against Kent State. But, I mean, I don't see him having the big bumps to where Tennessee's struggling against Chattanooga. I think the first quarter you're going to see a lot of spread of the field, obviously. They're gonna throw some bombs, I think. I think they're gonna expect Chris Brazel and Squirrel White and Brew McCoy to separate themselves. But again, you wanted to talk about a guy, Nathan Leacock. I think this Chattanooga game, and as long as Mike Matthews is healthy, we're gonna see a lot of them.
Yeah. And that's what you want to see, obviously. Getting those young guys in and letting them loose in a game where you're not worried about, winning or losing really. I wanted to talk a little bit about the first scrimmage that was held last Friday night in Neyland Stadium. We've already touched on it. It was the first time they ran with the iPads and the iPads on the sideline and the helmet communication. From what Heupel said afterwards, he said it all went smoothly. They're still working out a few kinks, which, to be expected. But the biggest thing out of the scrimmage to me, there was two things. Number one, which is fine with me, a lot of the veteran players sat out, which, that's fine. Get your rest, heal up, ramp it up the week before Chattanooga. That's fine with me because John Campbell didn't play, Cooper didn't play, Sampson didn't play. A lot of those players didn't play in that scrimmage that are going to be, focal points of the team. The other thing was Heupel said Christian Harrison took a lot of snaps at nickel. And Boo Carter did also, but apparently, from what he sounded like, I'm not for sure. It sounded like they were pretty even on the snaps, but Harrison got slightly more. And I just wanted to have a little debate with you because I think you fall on the other side than me, Jim. I think with the injury to Jordan Thomas, Christian Harrison should start at the nickel spot just because of the experience, at least to start the year.
Well, again, I think this is a perfect point of what we were talking about with, the wide receivers and some defensive line guys that will get an opportunity to play against like Chattanooga. I think you're right. I think the first game you should probably split those snaps and just see, how each one does to when you compare each other for NC State. Because I think once you get to NC State, you should have a set guy. I think the first game's perfect to have someone split snaps to where you could see how they do and just be able to, debate from there. I'm not saying you're wrong about Christian Harrison because, I mean, he's a good football player. And like you said, he does have the 1 year over Boo Carter. I think I'm more saying I say Boo Carter just because I know Boo Carter's a stud and I know he can do good. And I expect Boo Carter to be on the field at in some fashion of the game. He's going to be on the field. But you could be right. But I think we should definitely be seeing both them like 50-50 the first week.
Yeah. See, the main reason I say Harrison will start is like you said, the year or two he has ahead of Boo Carter. But the other reason, which I think is just based in the reality of college football, is that it's very rare that a true freshman comes in and starts day one. Like, that is rare. Like, it took Eric Berry, the best secondary player Tennessee has ever had, 4 games to really start getting snaps and eventually make his way into the starting lineup. So at least to start the year, and I know comparing Boo Carter to Eric Berry might be a little bit of overhype, but I don't think it's ridiculous to put him in the same breath based on what everybody thinks that he can do. But
Okay, well, who do you think your starting DBs are?
I think the dude from Oregon State, his
McCoy,
name's
Jamar McCoy.
He'll play. Ricky Gibson will be on the field at the other corner spot.
Okay, so who's your 2 safeties?
See, that's where it gets hairy for now, based on what's going on. There's a lot of competition on.
I think there's one for Sherlock at safety.
Jacoby.
Yeah, Jacoby Thomas will be a starting safety.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of
Good
Will
things.
Brooks. I've heard a lot of Will Brooks. I've heard
I've heard that too.
And there's just so many names back there. There's not necessarily in this at safety, solely a safety, but Christian Charles still is vying for snaps in fall camp right now. But I think the second, that's obviously the most up in the air position group on the team as far as who will take the first snaps in the first game. So
now speaking of Boo Carter, dude, that kid reminds me of Eric Berry, and I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Eric Berry, but I'm saying the way he is, the dude loves to hit people. He reminds me of an Eric Berry or an Ed Reed type guy that could be a nice safety at some point. I'm not saying he's going to be a starting safety, but I'm just saying I feel like that would be a good option for him eventually. But he's more of a nickel guy, which I expect him to be. And again, he's going to be in the game at points because obviously, let's say Christian Harrison wins that nickel spot. He's not going to play 100% of the snaps. Boo Carter will come in at some point to play. But again, there's so much competition, like you said. There's so much competition that this room hasn't had in a while, to where you're making these guys work. And we're also forgetting about Jalen McMurray out of Temple.
Yep.
I think he's another one that is going to be fighting for a spot. You got John Slaughter as well.
Yeah, you got Turrentine back there. That's who I think will start the other safety spot. I completely forgot about him. Turrentine.
No, yeah, I agree. That's a good spot. I think he also played really well against Iowa that game.
That pick in the end zone was something we didn't see.
Yeah, you forget about that play. That was a huge play at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, that's something we hadn't seen from the safety spot all year. Just a nice jump on a ball, and it was exciting play because Turrentine, we didn't see him because Willie Martinez and Tim Banks, whoever makes those decisions last year, just rode with the older players, and now they're all gone. So, like you said,
finally, and no offense to them, I love them all, but oh my God, dude, these young guys were hungry to play, and they showed it in that bowl game. And Andre Turrentine showed it in that bowl game, and the guy was, he came from Ohio State. And they know how to recruit defensive backs. That's all I'm saying. He's a good player. And I think between him and Jacoby Thomas, that'll be a good safety duo right there. And Ricky Gibson and McCoy, I think I really think I'm glad we're slept on in the defensive back room because no one expects them to be an elite group. But they definitely have the talent to be an elite group. Even just naming the starting 5, even if you put Harrison there. Harrison in there. You're gonna, to me, Ricky Gibson, Turrentine, McCoy, Thomas, and Harrison. And hey, I'm just saying, if that's your group, did you know that that's number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5? Did you know that?
That would be aesthetically pleasing, I guess.
But it would literally be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then McMurray's number 6.
Oh boy,
Oh wait, I take that back. Jordan Thomas is number 4, so Jacoby Thomas is number 9. My bad, but it's still aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, single digits. But the thing you said about I really like what you said about we haven't had competition in that room pretty much since Heupel has been here. And I mean, competition brings out the best in people. It makes people play to a different level when they're trying to beat somebody out. And I think that will only, prove beneficial once we get to the season. Um, the last thing that came out of the scrimmage that really stood out to me was that, I know I mentioned that, Cooper didn't play. I don't think Zaylance Hurd played in the scrimmage either. John Campbell didn't play, but it the defensive line coming out of that scrimmage got a lot of talk, and at the very least, it proves that they can overmatch an offensive line that isn't as talented as them, which didn't always happen last year. That there were games where our defensive line,
Couldn't get to the guy.
yeah, exactly, and it may be because of our game plan or whatever.
They still had 42 sacks, by the way,
Yeah,
or 44 sacks, I think.
Yeah, Tennessee was up near the top of the SEC last year in sacks and tackles for loss, and I don't see a reason why it won't be even better this year with all those guys we mentioned earlier. But that's the last thing I heard come out of the scrimmage that really stood out to me. Was there anything that you heard or read, Jim, that stood out to you?
I think Chris Brazzell is going to be a problem. I think a lot of people knew that going into this, that that Tennessee's offense, is going to be hard to stop. The only thing I'm worried about with the offense is the running back room. We all know Dylan Sampson's going to be Dylan Sampson, which is good to have. But let's just, I'm knocking on wood, but to me, Dylan Sampson cannot get hurt. He cannot get hurt, because to me, then you got true freshman Peyton Lewis, which I'm not mad about. I think Peyton Lewis is going to be a great running back. And then Cam Seldon coming off an injury. Mm-hmm. So but you were talking about a guy before we even started the pod. We need people like Deshaun Bishop and Khalifa Keith to step up at that point if that ever happens. But to me, who's your running back too? I mean, we know it's Cam Seldon if he's healthy. Yeah. So, but other than Cam Seldon, you would expect it to be Deshaun Bishop or Peyton Lewis.
Yeah, for now. I think a lot of the concern about the running back room right now is solely because of those injuries. I think if everybody was healthy, we'd be in a pretty good spot. But since, they're going to be a little bit behind as far as live reps and getting hit a little bit in practice, it might be iffy early on. And, even if Sampson goes the whole year and doesn't miss a game, Tennessee has always, under Heupel, used 2 or 3 running backs. Like, somebody, there's going to be more than, just Dylan Sampson getting the ball handed to him or passed to him or whatever, just because of the way the offense is, going fast. And people forget that Tennessee really is a power running offense. So
mainly running, yeah. The over 50% of their snaps are a run play.
Yeah, and it's
and now you added a running quarterback, which we haven't talked about that. A lot of people don't realize, Joe Milton could run, but he never really ran. And what pissed me off about his first preseason game is he was running, but and I said that a long time ago on one of our pods that Joe Milton I think would be better in a pro style offense, and I think he's proven that the first week of the preseason. But anyway. But yeah, over 50% of the snaps are run play, because Tennessee spreads you out. You have a weaker box to prevent the run, and especially with the offensive line Tennessee has this year. If the running backs could be even close to what the 3-headed monster was, better watch out. And then you got a quarterback that can run and actually throw the ball down the middle of the field. Oh boy, better watch out.
The one of the few videos I saw from the scrimmage, the main account posted at Tennessee football, was Nico hitting Ethan Davis over the middle from I got really excited, my pants got tight, because we didn't see that last year. We didn't see it at all. And if they're in a scrimmage doing that, like that's going to be a part of their plan. And like you said, the tight end room is going to be better anyway with the likes of uh, hell, Ethan Davis. You have that transfer from Alabama. I forget his name.
Kitzelman.
There you go.
I've heard great things about him.
Yeah, I mean,
he could block. He could block really well. But what I've heard, from the VolQuest guys and some other sources, I heard he's actually really good in the pass game as well. And
I think he's going to be this year's Jacob Warren, or really Jacob Warren in 2022.
Now, there's another question: is what do you do in the tight end room? Because you're typically going to play two tight ends. Mm-hmm. And I think Kitzelman will probably be the main guy, like you said. I think he'll be the main guy that's on the field most of the time. But then who do you go to between Holden Stays and Ethan Davis? Because Ethan Davis, you just talked about it. He's going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. But Holden Stays is another guy who is a great threat. He's a good blocker, and he could catch as well. So, and he's coming from Notre Dame, obviously I think to play. So, but again, Ethan Davis is a guy that you could see in a wide receiver spot.
Yeah. I mean, that's, again, like the first year or two, even some last year, a lot of the spots on the team, there was no doubt who was going to play because the depth just was not there. But now, like, I forgot Holden Stays was even on the team. And you just mentioned him. I'm like, holy shit, we have 3 tight ends.
Yeah, that are starter potential.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and whoever ends up, taking the bulk of the snaps there, for a fact earned it. Whereas in the past, that was not always the case. The thing that excites me about Ethan Davis, and like you just said, you could see him as a receiver. If he's the Swiss Army knife that Princeton Fant was 2 years ago, hand it to him on the goal line, run a jet sweep to him, like throw it to him in the flat, let him pass the ball down the damn field up 40 against UT Martin, whatever. Like, that would be a huge development too.
No, yeah. The thing is Nico's not going to be short of options to throw to. I mean, he's going to have a crap ton of people to throw to this year. Like I said, if the running back room can be close to what it was, I think this offense is going to be astronomically better than last year. The main concern with this offense is, can they pick up the tempo? Because I said it at the beginning of last year, and I'm not sure if you remember it, but I always said, I'm like, doesn't this offense just feel slow? Like, compared to what it was with Hendon Hooker, it was just slow. It felt like the tempo wasn't there like we were used to. And that makes a big difference when teams get that, little bit of a break, is, they just had time to catch up. I feel like that was like the problem last year.
Yeah. I've made my thoughts clear. I think it came down to who you had at quarterback. I mean, how many times last year during a game, when the year before we would be running mock speed, did Joe Milton and the whole, like, everybody look at the sideline with like 25 seconds on the clock?
And it would go down to 10 seconds. Like,
yeah, like, that's not what Heupel wants to do, and I think it's because he had to do it because Milton didn't have as good of a grasp on the offense as Hendon did, and hopefully as good of a grasp as Nico will have, having been the man since Milton opted out of the bowl game. I think that's beneficial to have, not 9 months knowing you're the man, knowing you're going to be the guy, watching the film, learning the offense in and out. And, Nico's been here for a year and a half now. So if I think he will be more than ready to run the offense to Josh Heupel's standards, where Milton did not at times last year.
No, yeah, that's absolutely correct. I think, like I said, I mean, we probably won't see it until the NC State game, really, because I expect Nico to play maybe a quarter and a half, if that. I think if everything goes well, you should have Nico play 1 quarter, even less than 1 quarter, like, if at all possible.
I
But
think I think he'll play till at least halftime.
the way that this coaching staff has been in the past, I agree. I wouldn't be shocked that he plays till halftime. But again, like it should be like if you're up even 14-0 in the first quarter, I'd be thinking about it. I would definitely be thinking about, hey, maybe we should just let everyone else get a shot here and keep like I expect Brew McCoy to only play a quarter.
Yeah.
Like anybody that was like hurt throughout this fall or spring, I think will play a quarter at most. If you're a true starter for this team, I think a guy like Cooper Mays, get him off the field. Get him. Every offensive lineman should be off the field in the first quarter.
That's if Cooper goes down, that will probably hurt the team more than any position.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Other than Nico, that is 100% sure. Like 100% true. But yeah.
I think the reason I think he'll play till at least halftime, we're of course assuming Tennessee will mop the floor with the Chattanooga Mocs, is because he needs as many game reps as he can get. What we talked about earlier, with the reps he wasn't able to get last year because Tennessee was not playing well against overmatched opponents, not doing what they were supposed to do. I think they'll get him as many reps that is feasible. That makes sense.
No, yeah, I agree. The main thing for me is getting your offensive line out of there, because those are the guys that are more prone to getting hurt. Because I don't expect Chattanooga to touch Nico. I don't expect that.
Yeah, if they do, we might have a problem.
My thing is what Nico needs to do is, like, I get running the ball, just don't like slide. Please slide. Don't get hit.
Yeah.
Don't be like Will Levis in the preseason. Don't be looking to get hit. Just get down. Go win us a quick football game and get out of there, please.
Yeah, I mean that's obviously, besides winning that Chattanooga game, your number 2 priority is getting out of there injury free. Last year in the first game, Kenny Peely went down with his injury, so it can happen. So that is obviously a huge priority for that game. So the next scrimmage, Jim, will be Thursday. What do you want to hear coming out of the second scrimmage of fall camp?
My main thing is obviously Nico. I want to hear good things about Nico. Mm-hmm. Obviously the quarterback is the most important position on the field. I want to hear no injuries. That's another main thing for me. Also, if I'm picking player, I'm looking at the defensive back room. I'm looking at the defensive back room and even the linebackers in general, because we know the defensive line is going to be good. It's just, if the linebackers, which I've still heard that Arian Carter is going to be an absolute beast of a linebacker. And like I said, if you're going between him, because Tennessee, they play a 4-2-5, don't they?
I think most of the time.
Yeah, so you're mostly going to be playing Keenan Peely and Arian Carter, in my opinion. And T. Lander will obviously be on the field a lot too. And again, linebackers and defensive backs, that's what I would like to hear. And obviously the quarterback position. What about you?
So I do have a little propaganda update for everybody. Me and Eli kind of hinted at it. We were excited to hear the propaganda coming out of the first couple of weeks of fall camp. And some of the names so far, Deshaun Bishop, apparently he had a really good scrimmage, which is, it's a nice story as a walk-on when Josh Heupel is saying that you were running hard and running fast and doing what you were supposed to do. Another guy, getting some good publicity, Nathan Leacock. We've already mentioned him during this episode. Doing what he's supposed to do, put himself in a position to get on the field. Jackson Moe, working his way into that defensive line rotation. I think he'll be a big player this year, but there's a couple guys I want to add to the propaganda watch list. Peyton Lewis, Boo Carter.
Absolutely.
And one more.
Oh.
I want to hear that Edwin Spillman did something incredible.
Hey, listen, I've heard good things about him though.
Yeah. I mean, the propaganda list is ever changing. It is very flexible. Anybody can be added or taken away in a heartbeat. But if you told me that Peyton Lewis took a screen pass 40 yards for a touchdown, if you told me Boo Carter housed a pick six, if you told me Edwin Spillman forced a fumble, the propaganda charge would be, just to the freaking moon on those players.
Well, I don't know if I said it in the podcast before, but you know who Edwin Spillman was kind of reminded as to one of the coaches, as one of the players they reminded him of?
I mean, is it like a Hall of Famer?
No, but it's a Tennessee legend.
Al Wilson?
Yep.
Oh.
They said that he's got the attitude and he plays just like Al Wilson did.
Oh my God! Well, he's a college football Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and I would not be shocked to be seeing Edward Spillman on the field every so often this year.
Mm-hmm. I mean, me and Eli touched on it a couple weeks ago. Like the linebacker room, we said it does lack depth, but the top end of that room is really, really talented.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at it between the first four to me sound great. Yeah. And that's Arian Carter, Keenan Peely, T-Lander, and Edwin Spillman. I think those are your top four.
Yeah.
But you also have Jordan Burns, freshman.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb Perry is another one. Again, another room that you could have competition in. Now we have more of a set tone, just like the defensive line. Like you have more of a set thing over there in the linebacker room, but it's guys coming up, and you can make a statement in the fall and get some playing time. I mean, they have the talent there, but now I think the defensive line is the best defensive line in the country. I hate to, I'm not trying to, this is not a Tennessee bias thing. I think Tennessee's defensive line is an absolute nightmare for any football team this year.
Yeah. I mean, we that's why I wanted to name those players, as many as we can, just off the top of our heads, because there's just so many names in that room. And with the way Rodney Gardner rotates them in and out, keeps them all fresh, you're going to play. You're going to get on the field at some point, even if it's for, less than 10 snaps, less than 5 snaps even. You're going to get in the game at some point. You're going to have an opportunity to make a play. And all those names we said have the ability to make a play. And did you see, I don't know, this wasn't very well covered, but Rodney Gardner, when he was talking to the media at some point last week.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
He somebody asked him who's opened your eyes, who's deserving of praise, it was something along those lines.
Nobody.
He was like, nobody. Why would I praise him? That's what I want to hear from a coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you're talking about practice reps, does that of course practice is important, but until they do it in a game and prove themselves in a game, it's all, just like I said earlier, propaganda. So I love that. And there's the reason that Rodney Gardner is one of the most respected coaches in college football. And I think that's one of the reasons why.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I'd rather be going in to where no one's really talking about you. I mean, people have said Tennessee's defensive line is going to be scary this year, but I'm telling you, I mean, the fact, like you said, the fact that you can name up to 13 guys that could come in and make a difference is ridiculous. And that's going all the way to Jordan Ross. I think Jordan Ross is going to be a problem even in his freshman year. I think he's going to be the next James Pierce, because when you have James Pierce is obviously a top 5 pick, but he could be the number 1 overall pick in the draft next year. If he has the same season he did last year, and obviously better, I mean, he could be the number 1 pick in the draft.
Yeah, I mean,
And
at the very least, even if James Pierce doesn't have the same numbers, the attention that he will get will open it up for all those other names.
yeah, the fact that because think about it, you have a room like that, man, and let's say you're the offense coordinator of Chattanooga, and you're like, okay, well, don't worry, we'll double James Pierce. Okay, all right, bet. Omar Norman Lott, get to work. Amari Thomas, get to work. Jordan Ross, get to work. Weathersby, get to work. Like Dominic Bailey, get to work. I can keep going. The list goes on and on. It's just like, okay, you're not going to double James Pierce? He's getting to the quarterback every single time. Every single time. So it's like the fact, like you just said, you have to pay attention to a guy like James Pierce. And if you're not doubling him, to me, at least 50% of the time he's getting pressure on the quarterback, if not hitting them.
Yeah, I think it was the Texas A&M game last year where he had like 7 quarterback hurries and he only had 1 sack. But if you remember that game, that quarterback was in hell, running for his life. I remember one pass that dude threw was like he was horizontal to the ground, and he was like doing a belly flop, and he somehow got the ball off. But he was so close to having like a 5-sack game, and like that's the kind of.
Do you think he gets that this year? I think he does.
I think
he does. I think he gets a weaker opponent. I think he's going to get. I think at Chattanooga.
Yeah.
I think James Pierce at least walks away with 3 sacks before he gets taken out of the game.
I think he for sure gets a 3-sack game. A 5-sack game is a lot to ask, but I will not rule out anything
against the right opponent. And if they leave him in long enough, I think he does.
Yeah, I think it was 2018, the last time I remember a Tennessee edge rusher getting that much. I think it was 4 sacks. Darrell Taylor had 4 sacks against Kentucky in 2018, and like again, that's the only game I can remember anybody getting even 3 sacks. So it's few and far between. But like I said, a guy like James Pierce, I would not rule anything out.
Yeah, like I said, this and here's the thing: is everyone says you win the game in the trenches. Tennessee on both sides of the ball has the ability to win every single game in the trenches. I mean, if you can figure out that guard spot, left guard, like you said, I mean, they're going to figure it out. I mean, you might not have a first-round draft pick, but you're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And if you could do that, I think it's. I mean, I'm not going to tell you Tennessee is going undefeated. I'm not going to tell you that. But Tennessee absolutely could win 9 to 10 games. Like, not even a question. Like, and I don't know, even you have all your pretty much tough games at home. Other than Oklahoma and Georgia, you're at home. So this is the year to do something if you're going to do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Have we touched on the upcoming recruitment of one David Sanders?
No, we haven't. But it's coming up in, 5 days?
Saturday the 17th.
Yep. I mean, the dude's got 8 crystal balls to Tennessee.
That's a lot of crystal balls.
Yeah, that's a lot. Now, I'm still optimistic about it. Obviously, a kid could do whatever he wants. It just feels good right now for Tennessee.
I don't think you get that many crystal balls. If it does, I mean, it's so. I don't really get the concept of a crystal ball, because if that many people are doing it, he's had to have told somebody, or somebody's told somebody, or something, or something has come out. But it kind of makes me sad for him. It takes away from his moment a little bit. But
I agree.
But it's just, I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to land David Sanders. I don't believe in jinxes. You know this, Jim.
No, I know.
We're going to land him.
That's a top 5 class.
that would rocket you easily to a top 5 class. And then, we have Onus Conan Bonnie coming up soon too.
Another guy that I think could be a good Tennessee lock.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot remember a recruiting stretch this exciting since the start of COVID, when Jeremy Pruitt was randomly landing all these players. He got like 5 or 6 in the span of a month, 4 or 5 stars. And then by the time, December of 2020, when he was, pissing down his leg, losing 6 games in a row, all those players jumped out of the boat. But I do not foresee that happening. And that's why this is so exciting.
I mean, he's a top 3 player in the class, number 1 offensive lineman in the class. This is a huge get for Tennessee. And like you said, there's others that still have to, make their decision. So, again, Tennessee has killed it this year in the whole recruiting aspect of the game. So, but expect David Sanders' recruitment numbers to go down once he commits to Tennessee. It happens every single time.
It's so annoying. But for everyone that goes down, at least in this cycle, Tennessee's jumped in on a few guys. Rodarius Jackson, I think the lineman we got between us and Ohio State, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, they're shooting up the rankings a little bit. So the scouting department's doing good on the, kind of under the radar players. And of course, when you're getting the 4 and 5 stars that Georgia wants, that Alabama wants, that Ohio State wants, you're in a good spot. So everything is going right in the recruiting world right now for Tennessee and Josh Heupel.
Yeah, just by getting David Sanders, we'll jump up to the 6th spot. But if we had Onus, I mean, you're easily going into the top 5.
Yeah.
So I think Tennessee will end the class. Obviously, they have a top 10 class for sure. But I think Tennessee will end the recruiting cycle at a top 5 spot.
Yeah.
So,
got anything else tonight, Jim?
Nope. Next podcast, we'll be doing our predictions and getting ready for Chattanooga. Season's very, very close, people, and couldn't be more excited.
Couldn't have said it better.
All right, baby.
Go Vols.
Go Vols, baby. 12-0. Here we come.